Monday, early for me anyway, and the move is complete. We are now in our new position, much higher off the ground, which is wonderful. Everything went beautifully, so thank you to the yard lads, no problems at all. And we've got power over there, and we've got water over there, and I'm going to stop and have a cup of tea and a couple of croissants because I'm starving. I haven't had any breakfast yet, which is naughty. But job for today is to finish the fill on this, let that set up. While that's setting up, I will probably do some scraping underneath and some sanding of the section that was on the block before, change the propping, so we can get to where we need to get to. One of the most incredible things is this is unmolested here, and it's actually bang dead level, which is which is absolutely incredible. I can't believe we've judged it that well. So yeah, still lots to do, but the move is done. Unfortunately I missed it, so I couldn't film it. I was on the train when it was happening, but there we go. You know, time waits for no man, time and tide waits for no man. But all present and correct, so let's crack on. So here we are again, forward cabin, pointy end of the boat, ha ha ha. And I'm going to grind out some of the duffish, blocky, blobby bits of the layup that we put on the bottom of the forward deck using our lovely power file. And then I'll be chucking a layer of resin and then some more glass down. So let's have a look at what we're going to do. I've just finished grinding out the duff glass under the forward deck. What I'm going to do next, I've just hoovered up because there was dust and glass everywhere, and I itch in a way that I'm sure you can believe if you've ever done fiberglass work. But I'm going to make some putty up and put those on the angles that we were having trouble with. So I want to fillet the angles out. It'll make it easier for the glass to stick. Got plenty of resin, got plenty of colloidal silica. So I'm mixing up some putty to do the radiuses, do the filleting on below the forward deck. It's probably going to take me 2 or 3 batches. I'm doing 250ml at a time with 2% mech, so that's going to be 5ml mech. That's the wrong one. That's the one I want to use. And then I will spoon in some colloidal silica, which is in the bag at the back. But put your mask on. So we're going 5ml mech. Where is my stick? And it is. Always put the lid back on immediately. It's very bad for you, mech. I should be wearing gloves. So this is shaping up into quite a good consistency already. Well, we are going to need a little bit more. So about the same again. It's going everywhere. Well, that is pretty good to go. So the first bit I'm going to do is round the square for the chain boss. There we go. Right. So I'm going to move you and use this and the stuff I've just mixed. So let's get going. Woo! Hello. Welcome to Gardener's World. It's a tricky business. So load that up. So the filleting around the chain boss plate is in and is now setting up. I think that's going to do us quite nicely. Right, we're back after a few days off, bad weather and illness. So I'm going to carry on with the hard top. It needs a little wipe over with some acetone and a coat of flow coat on it. Wifey's also here today, and we have a friend joining us later to help us crank the engines and see what sort of condition they're in. Right, Si's working away in the engine bay there. Hopefully, actually, let's move this forward just a smidge. Get this all set up proper. You happy?
Kind of. I can't really get it on as much as I'd like to.
I think as long as the tubing clips on it, it'll be okay. Yeah, that'll be alright. Okay, so what I reckon is go and turn the water on and check the coolant path. And if this starts filling up with water, we know we've got such a problem we don't want to start it.
Yeah. I'll give you a shout.
Righto. Right, coming down.
I hear it running and got a leak.
Right, that's coming out of the through hole.
So it's pissing water out in there.
I'll tell you what, that's coming out absolutely filthy.
Yeah, but you've got water pissing out of the plant tank. It's like pissing out. Like, I'm just saying, it's going over your electrics on the side.
Yeah.
The equivalent of whatever that is. And it's falling over. So would I start moving that?
Right. Oof. Well, I hope you can see, you should be able to see just about that. In the bottom of the engine compartment here, it's absolutely filthy dirty. And as I'm sure I mentioned before, if I could just get that sponge out, thank you. As I'm sure I mentioned before, underneath the boat there are a number of screws going straight through the hull, which are from the old bilge pump. And the old bilge pump is junk. Literally junk. It's awful, dreadful. So I'm gonna go and get another screwdriver, is what I'm gonna do. Honestly, just whoever thought it was a good idea, we'll just pass the screws through the bottom of the hull. Should be shot in the face with a crossbow bolt. I mean, look at this stuff. That's the one. Rancid, but once again with a good screw. They're funny, they're funny. The state of that thing, look at it. So I'm just in the process of finishing up installing the new bilge pump. This is the bottom cap that I'm going to resin in place in the bottom of the engine bay. I've recabled for the switch and the new pump, all swap outable connectors. So no change of panel yet. I've got a new panel at home, but that can wait until we've remodeled the cockpit. We've got a lot of work to do on the cockpit, but the old bilge pump was letting us down repeatedly, so I'm just going to resin this in, and then I will probably have to pour some water in the bottom to test it, which is going to be a whole lot of fun. Okay, so the switch is in and the base plate for the pump is in. It's not set up, so we're going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to come back tomorrow and finish that off and do some other bits and bobs, but that's good progress. So here's the mounting spot for the new bilge pump, right down in the bottom of the engine bay. Lowest point, studied that very carefully. You want it at the lowest point and the switch as close to the lowest point as possible. So I will get that new pump in and plumb it into the outflow pipe, and then we'll give it a quick test run. Okay, so the new pump is in. I'll put some water down. So let's see if we get any action. Sounds good, sounds like it's working. Sure enough. Beautiful. Let's see how low it will get. Boy, it's sucking that stuff up. Oh yeah, that's much better than the old one. That's really motoring. I think that's probably about as much as it's going to get. There's still a little bit coming out. But that's an improvement on the old one. Now the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that the outflow pipe is pressing the auto switch down, but the spare pipe I have is not long enough to replace that. When I get some more pipe, I'll flip the pump round the other way so that the outflow pipe's coming astern, and then that will be fine. But that's good, that's another job off the list. So let's move on. Okay, so this is too windy and there's too much of a risk of rain for me to lay up any gel coat outside today. What I'm going to do while we're avoiding the rain is to go back and sand back the additional fill that we did on the weekend. Just the last bit of patching on this side of the hull. There's some more on the other side of the hull as well that I'm going to try and knock back if I've got time. Okay, well, after a frustrating start to the day with the incredibly windy weather, which is still around, but the skies are now clearer, knocked back all of this side of the boat. There's still a few bits of fill and stuff that need to be redone, but it's looking a lot better from tip to tail. And if I just come around this side, this is an area that I'm going to spend quite a bit of time working on fairly soon. Some quite heavy impact damage. I need to get my shadow out of shot. So if I come down here, move in a little bit closer, here's an aborted attempt at patching with just straight fiberglass resin. But there is some quite serious impact damage there, and it goes all the way up here. It looks like somebody had a close encounter with some rocks, and under the chine here it's quite bad, but that's fine. We know how to fix that, so fix it we shall. Lots of scratches and dings on this side, and of course we've still got the gunnels to sort out. So here I am back inside the boat, having done some sanding on the hull and got everything nice and flat, ready for some further attention when the weather gets better. And on the subject of weather, having just checked the weather report for the next few days, we are in for some rough stuff. There's a bit of a storm has come over the Atlantic, and rain and wind are going to be the order of the day for the next few days. So it is time to shift our focus to the cabin, to the interior of the boat. So let's have a quick look around and see what the most important jobs are that we need to start planning, ordering materials for, and working out how the hell we're going to complete them. So this is the main cabin bulkhead. Out through the window there is the cockpit, and as I'm sure you can see, this is in a bit of an old state, a lot of water damage, and this we are going to replace with a material called Nidacore. Oh, fuck's sake. So this is the main cabin bulkhead, which separates the cockpit that you can see just through the window and the main cabin. This is absolutely rotten. Sections down here behind those tools is so rotten that it's actually no longer there. And if you can see just behind the step there, that's all very rotten. There's sections of that missing. This side is not so bad, but if we're going to replace it, we're going to have to replace the whole thing. And this is going to be a very interesting exercise. It is tabbed in. You can see in the far corner there. It is tabbed in to the hull, quite rightly. On this side, you may be able to see it's not tabbed on this side, it's tabbed on the exterior. So that's another job for which we are going to have to remove yonder cockpit floor. Now we're going to use a material called Nidaplast to replace this bulkhead. It's an extruded PVC board with a honeycomb structure inside. It's designed specifically for decks, bulkheads. It's perfectly safe to use it as a structural element. Comes in various widths. We're going to go for 20mm, which is a little bit skinnier than the current bulkhead, but you have to glass it on both sides. And also we're going to skin it with gel coat, so we have a nice shiny fresh bulkhead, and we can dress it on the inside with whatever we want. These bulkheads are a real soft spot on these boats. They're a real problem, and they do need replacing. If ever you come across a Fury, and I hope you do, and I hope you think about buying it because they are beautiful boats, but if you do ever get hold of one, have a very, very close look at this bulkhead. Up on the top, it's actually screwed into the top side. Up above us here is the sun deck, and there's wooden dressing all the way round, which has dowels in, and behind the dowels are screws, and the screws go through the bulkhead, through the fiberglass, and then into the bulkhead. Now I'm thinking we should tab that in, because I don't particularly want to put any more screws through the Nidaplast than I can help. It's not really designed for that sort of stuff. I mean, there are things you can do. There's, you can affix wood, all kinds of stuff. So there's plenty of ways that we can fix things on. It's not going to be a problem to cut a hole for the window or indeed for the door, but we will have to think about how we put the frame on the door and the lock and all that kind of jazz. So this is probably the most important interior job, even though a lot of the work that we have to do for it is exterior. Like I say, the cabin floor is going to have to come up so that we can remove it and get to the tabbing on the outside on this side. So we've already taken measure, we've already costed it up, and we've been thinking when is going to be the right time to order the material, and I think that time is now approaching. On the subject of replacing bulkheads, we also have this bulkhead amidships. It only covers about 3/4 of the width of the boat. This is the helmsman's seat. That's actually the footwell for the helmsman's seat. The seat is just out of shot above us. This is fairly structural. Again, we're going to use Nidoplast to replace this. Should be fairly easy. This is all interior work. It's going to be a matter of propping this just round here, in fact round the other side, which I'll show you in a second because there's another bulkhead forward of this one that we also need to replace. So this is the forwardmost bulkhead. Excuse all the trash, everything's got to go somewhere. This is the head, that's the forward cabin, and the forwardmost bit of the galley is just out of shot over here. Now I think we should do this bulkhead first. It's going to be the easiest to do, it uses the least amount of material, and we can get to everything that we need to get to. It's got the least amount of tabbing into the hull of any of the bulkheads. I'm going to say it's all about 1.5 meters of tabbing each side. This is the old chain locker bulkhead. And actually thinking about it, that's probably going to be the best one to do first. And on the subject of that, let's have a look at where the chain locker was and we can work out what it is exactly we want to do there. So here we are, forward cabin, chain locker. This is actually going to be the best candidate for the first bulkhead to build because it is by far the smallest. Needs to be done carefully, it needs to be done right because it needs to be waterproof. You know, you drag a wet chain up, a dirty chain up, so we're going to need to think about putting a drainage line and a through hull in. I want to clean out the remaining tabbing and the wood, check the integrity of the fiberglass because there is a bit of impact damage over there on the outside of the hull. So that, I reckon that's about a day's work, cleaning that out, doing any reglassing that needs doing, and then getting a layer or two of just white gel coat on there. I think that's going to be a good job, since we're going to have to shift the focus to inside for at least the next 2 weeks. I suspect by the time this storm system and the other bits and bobs of bad weather that we usually get towards the end of the summer, by the time they're done, the temperatures may be a little bit too low outside for us to do any real sort of gel coating or glassing work or anything. So, I mean, there's still sanding the underside of the hull. You don't really want to be doing that with power tools in the rain, and I'm damned if we're going to do it by hand. So that may have to wait until next spring. So any previous projections of when we may get back in the water are now rendered redundant. So that's going to be the next job. It's going to be a good way for us to learn how to handle Nidoplast and do other cosmetic work on the inside of the boat.